So this is from a video that I made while at NPR for my channel Skunk Bear.
In the end, they had to chase them to exhaustion in a helicopter. Then, when they got close to the ground, fire a net over them.
I really wanted the visuals for this to have sort of an organic feel. And so I decided to make all the visuals in watercolor and then animate them. So what I did is I basically would go in and paint a little piece of the eagle, like this part of the wing, and sort of create these joints throughout it so that I could animate the curve of this little helicopter. Each of the little legs is its own layer. The blades of the helicopter, these blades of grass, were all individually painted and then composited into this 3D layer in After Effects. So yeah, I did look at a lot of videos of eagles flying to figure out how their wings were articulated. I started out with just, a sheet of watercolor paper and literally with a brush and pigments, painted it, scanned it in, and then I'd cut out these various pieces. So I'd start out and I'd say, I know that I want to have the body here. That's just going to be, the beak and a little feet tucked. And then I know that I have two wings that as the virtual camera moves around it, and you want to see that depth and also the different pieces. So, I have a piece of the wing that's attached to the body, and then there's another piece a little bit higher up, another piece, and then the wing tips up here. And then I put a little hinge at each of these points, and then each of these would be rotated sort of independently to create that motion of the wing flapping. Each piece is parented, so this tip piece is parented to this piece is parented to this, etc. Any rotation that this piece takes on, all of these follow. For each of these hinges, you have a series of keyframes. Right now, the hinge 1 has a rotation of 0, and then 10 seconds later, we give it a rotation of 12 degrees, let's say. Hinge 2, this piece, is also got 12, and then I'm going to give it another 6 on top of that so that it bends even more. And so if you saw it from the side, here's the beginning. It's all at 0. These are the different pieces of the wing seen from the side view. At the second keyframe, each of these gets slightly more curved so that the wing in total is sort of curving around. So these are each of the angles. So, like we said before, this was 12, 6, 3 and 3, let's say. And then when the wing extends upward, the angles are going the other way. This is the animation sequence that's created. This makes it all sound kind of complicated, but this is probably a couple hours of work. The painting, the hand painting, is probably the longest piece of all this process, just because it takes a while to paint things. But all the other steps, once you got it rigged up, it's really easy to change these keyframes as you want. Also used a lot of wiggle, which is a expression you can put in the position segment of an After Effects layer, and you can make it wiggle, so sort of randomly move at a certain frequency and amplitude. So the amplitude is basically how much this bird is going to float around, and the frequency is how often it does that. If both of these are 0, then the eagle just stays in one point. But if I add some wiggle, it creates this sort of natural bobbing and weaving that looks more like an organic animal flying around. So an expression is basically a mathematical formula that tells some value within After Effects what to be. In After Effects, you have a layer. This is on a timeline, so this is time going forward. You have a layer, and it might have a bunch of different properties. So it has, for example, position, rotation, opacity, how see-through it is, and you can set those values with little keyframes. So maybe you want to have a fade out. You could set the opacity to 100 at the beginning and 0 at the end. It creates this fade out, so it starts out being not transparent to fully transparent. And you can do that with any of these values. So position, you can move it from one position on screen to another position. These expressions could tell it to do almost anything. You could have, there's an expression that's a loop out, which loops the action. So maybe if your keyframes are going from here to here, a loop out would make it go back and forth in this position. I often am trying to go from hand-drawn, handmade, and bring it in to animate it so it feels a little bit more, personal. That's what I go for. After Effects, it's so in the weeds. This looks like a madman to put this together. This is probably the long form video that has the most views of anything that I've ever made. A lot of times I'm trying to front load the pieces that I make with some of the more heavy animation lifts because I want people to be really drawn in by the visuals.